Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, we just touched feet. This is going to get real intimate.
I'm just trying to mirror you. I'm just like, let's just follow this guy's lead. He looks so forcibly comfortable.
Hang on. Let me get my foot up. There we go. It's Joe Faina, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, man.
Happy to have you. We've been
absolutely.
We're clearing out the deck here. We've had a lot of people who I've been wanting to have on for a little bit.
Okay.
Finally getting you on.
Yes.
Coming in with a movie that I've been tossing around with a couple people to talk about for a while. But now we have it here.
So this opinion's not controversial.
This is, I think it's controversial because I like this movie still. Okay. And that's Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah, sorry to bother you. I'm sorry to have this opinion. No, I guess I want to preface this real quick up top. I love Boots Reilly. Mm-hmm. I love The Coup. I've been listening to The Coup for a long time. I am generally supportive of all of his political opinions. Mm-hmm. And yet... I just
you can't.
This fucking movie
can't do it.
I can't do it.
Why can't you do it?
I don't know, because usually I can do it. Because you mentioned wanting to have me on for a while, and like I'm so bad at movies. Like I'm not a movies person. I know this is the wrong town to be saying that in, but I also think all movies are good. I don't watch very many movies.
Okay.
And so I take recommendations from people, and and generally I tend to enjoy them because I think it's like I convince myself that they're all good.
Right.
I never watch any, so why would I waste my time?
Yeah, so you're just, everything sort of regresses to the mean in your mind anyway.
And I'm like, everyone's just trying real hard in these movies. These movies are very impressive. Look, all these people put this thing together.
Man, everybody worked during this movie, and God, it's so nice.
Wow, a lot of people went to work and they got benefits out of this.
Yeah,
and Boots Reilly would probably say the same thing.
Oh yeah,
but this movie, you just
couldn't do it.
And I don't know, it was like too hokey for me.
Okay.
Yes, like I was pretty much out the moment these horse people show up, and I'm
yes.
I'm gonna really. This was the big thing.
Oh man, I remember when I
instantly was out. Like, nope, fuck this movie.
It's so interesting because we had, I think we've had sort of opposite experiences watching this movie. It sounds like, because I'd heard about this movie in the interest of full disclosure. A friend of mine is one of the producers on this movie.
Okay,
so if he had Boots staying in another mutual friend of ours apartment while he was working. Like anytime he would come in town to work on an edit or something or do press or whatever or screenings, he would stay at my friend's apartment. So I never met the guy, but I am a couple of degrees of separation removed from hearing about this movie pre-Sundance or pre any of the hype it got.
It was getting a lot of hype.
It was getting a lot of hype.
Because I first saw it, I live in a part of town where there's a small art house theater that doesn't get very many movies, and so the ones that show up are supposed to be the ones you need to see.
Yes, exactly.
And it was there. And
Los Feliz 3?
That's correct.
There you
Los
go.
Feliz 3, Vermont Boulevard, stand-up.
Classic.
Or Avenue. Vermont Avenue.
$6 matinees.
Yeah. Underrated if it's a movie you want to see. And I saw the movie there, and not only do I not see very many movies, I see even fewer of them in theaters. So now I'm sitting there this was one of the... I'm going to see maybe 3 total movies in a theater in this
is one
this
of them.
year, and this is going to be one of them, huh?
But I remember, I remember...
It was only $6, so I did appreciate it.
It's a good choice. That's the beauty
matinee.
of the Los Feliz 3 and the Vista and that whole family theater. $6 matinees. Mwah.
Yeah,
it's
underrated.
Texas movie prices.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty. When I was back in Texas with a friend of mine about, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? We went to a movie theater for an evening screening $7.50 for a movie ticket.
Yeah, at a Harkins.
At a
we
Harkins.
Go to a Harkins.
Yeah, South Lake Town Square Harkins, baby. It's either that or Tinseltown. Tinseltown, you can do a $4 matinee.
Oh yeah, I've never been in the Tinseltown. I've been to the Harkins.
Tinseltown is like the Skid Row compared to Harkins. Tinseltown. I remember I used to go to Tinseltown a lot growing up, and now there's a studio movie grill by my
in
parents'
Dallas?
house.
You go to a Dallas area?
No, I'm
one?
in Colleyville.
Okay.
So my folks would live.
Like I know the Round Rock one pretty well.
The Studio Movie Grill. It used to be some other chain that like ran the same scheme basically, and now it's this. And Studio Movie, it's super nice. You got big fancy recliners. They got an IMAX screen in there, and now I go to those because it's closer for the most part. And the prices are the same. It's like $6 or $7 to go see a movie. But if I go to Tinseltown, it feels like I'm gonna get some sort of like cancer, like mesothelioma. It just has the air of like, oh, this theater's been around too long, and has not been updated.
But that's the same as like the Los Feliz 3, where you're just like, but it's got a different kind of charm, to it, and also because it remains so cheap. That's why, like, going to a bad movie theater cheaply is an American rite of passage.
Exactly, I love it. That's why I vote with my dollars at the movie theater.
So you liked this movie,
and I liked this movie. And here's the thing: is I was watching it. The first time I watched it, I saw it at the ArcLight after. It had been in theaters for a little bit. It had been in theaters long enough to where
you were aware of it because your circle of folks is around Boots Reilly, head of the coup, who I love.
And I'd heard of but that's the thing. I didn't know anything about the movie. All I'd heard was somebody talking about like, oh, Boots is staying in the spare room again.
Okay,
and I was like, I don't know what any of this means. And then all of a sudden, did you know Boots Reilly? Or
no. So you're not familiar with him as an artist at all?
As an artist, not familiar with his work at all prior to this movie. And then somebody tweeted something in the circle that was like, hey, the movie that they made got into Sundance. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh, this is like a hyped movie. And so hearing all the reviews, this movie is part of the reason why I stopped reading reviews as heavily, is because I watched it and at very beginning of the movie, I came out feeling a little underwhelmed because everyone was like, oh, it's this crazy, insane, great movie. And I was watching it, I was like, this feels kind of like by the book.
And you're feeling weird. Like,
and I was feeling kind of
supposed to like this?
Yeah, I was like, did something go wrong? And then, but when the party scene happens, basically from the party scene when they're like, you can rap, right? From there,
I will admit there are some parts that are like really funny. There were some laugh out loud moments where I'm like, I'm going to shit on this movie, and then it went right back. But yeah, that's a really good.
That's still like from that scene basically onward up and through the horse sequence, because that was the other thing that people in reviews were spoiling. They weren't like spoiling it, but they're like, there's a lot of horse dick in this movie. And I was like, I bet there's going to be something where they're like turning into horses. And people sometimes would even overtly say that in reviews with no spoiler tags. And I'm fine with spoiling things. I think that it
is your fault for reading a review.
Right, exactly. But the other part of me now is like, well, now I have this expectation of what this movie's supposed to be like. And I've found that over the course of reading a lot of reviews and getting very hyped up for a movie, I wind up in a place where I'm disappointed more by it. So I'm glad that I was able. I came away from watching Sorry to Bother You still really enjoying it and thinking it was. I put it at the time. I put it as like, I think it was 10th in my year-end movie rankings of that year.
It was last year.
2
was it earlier this year?
I think it was 2017.
What is time anymore?
Who knows, man? I have no fucking clue.
Like, the movie's currently in theaters. We just watched it, Joe.
Yeah, we sat there together at the Los Feliz 3. But that's why I'm glad I got to rewatch it again now and sit and actually not have the hype of those reviews in my mind, because now I can sit there and be like, oh, okay, I understand.
Oh, I'm paying attention still.
Yeah, of course. That's Edgar knows that you're feeling emotionally conflicted.
Edgar is not sorry to bother me.
No, he is not. Edgar would never want to transform into a horse because he's too cute as a cat, aren't you, Edgar?
Those horses are also not cute.
No, those are the ugly, horrifying horses.
It's not even like the premise of they're turning them into. I get it. Like it's this metaphor. There's these metaphors that are on it. I have so many opinions on this movie.
This is a movie. It's a movie made by an opinionated individual that sparks a lot of opinions.
Absolutely. And Boots Reilly, I mean, I've been listening to The Coup. They're a Bay Area socialist hip hop group from Oakland. And when I was in college, I hung out with all kinds of people who were like, this is what we're into. Like, I knew all kinds of communist socialist kids. I was on the debate team. Like, there was plenty of these people. And all of the TAs we would hang out with, these cultural studies academics are all listening to The Coup. So I listen to them all the time. And like, so I'm like into it for that. So for the first like 25 minutes of the movie, I'm like, okay. I mean, yeah, this is an indie film. I get it. Like there's some really interesting. It's supposed to be weird. Yes. I know that it's Boots Reilly, and then it's one of these ones where like it gets too weird. It's supposed to simultaneously too weird and too on the nose. Like I get the point you're making. It's pretty clear in the first 15 minutes of the movie. I even agree with your point, but like, what is going on with these are these horse costumes? Did you run out of money? Like they were like poorly made.
Right. Well, that's the thing too, is like,
I don't know what I'm looking for in believable horse human hybrids.
Right.
But I was like, these look like shitty costumes.
Maybe you just got to dial your expectations down about what you're looking for when it comes to the Equisapien lifestyle and how it's portrayed on screen.
Right.
But that's I remember
CEO was it that who's that actor?
It's Armie Hammer.
That's what I thought. Armie Hammer. That's what Armie Hammer wants me to believe.
Exactly. Steve Lift, man. He doesn't want you to be thinking about how shitty
Is it
these
Lift
horses
with a
look.
Y?
No, LIFT.
That would have been too on the nose.
That would have been way too on the nose. But there's a lot of stuff. I mean, that's the thing too. Is this movie? I agree with you. This movie is very on the nose, but I think it I think it has to be on the nose because it's in that vein of movie that it typically comes out of Sundance, where it's ostensibly an indie movie, but then it becomes so hyped and becomes so well regarded out of Sundance or whatever. You know, this happens at other festivals, Cannes, Toronto, TIFF,
the
all that
movies
stuff.
You're supposed to look for.
Yes, and so it has to. It's designed in a way where it's like, we're going to get regular people to watch this movie. And regular people need shit to be on the nose, especially when it's a socialist movie about trying to get workers unionized.
Union rights. Yeah. I'm here for all of this.
Exactly. These are ideas that are not they're not uncommon or bad ideas by any
not
means.
At all. This is the thing that happens. These are not all the same comparisons, but I was thinking about this movie the way that some, not all, like non-comedians, but smart people with good senses of humor, the way they're like, I love Bill Maher. You know what I mean? Like your non-comic friends of yours who, like my background is in academia. I was a grad student for a long time. That's why I was aware of The Coup probably before a lot of other people, man. Yeah, because I'm just around all these like real smart people who are like reading French philosophy and then listening to socialist hip hop all the time. Like a lot of these friends of mine in college. And so a lot of them are also like into Bill Maher. Like they love Bill Maher. Like he's red meat for liberals. And they think he's funny because they agree with his general point of view.
Right.
Not the Muslim stuff. They always conveniently like forget about that shit.
Right. That stuff, if he had the time that he had Milo Yiannopoulos on, everybody was like, how dare you? But
like he's this political comedian. He's very left and like he hates George Bush and like hell yeah. It's like that stuff.
Right.
But then like as a comedian you're like, yeah, but he's also like not funny.
I remember
his jokes are boring. You like him because you agree with him. He's red meat for liberals.
He fits into a mold.
Exactly.
Like I remember one time I submitted a packet to Bill Maher and it was one of the easiest voices to latch on to.
Yes.
Because his whole thing is basically like the smarmy liberal guy at a party who also you hate that he's talking down to you, but you also kind of agree with him.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's that. It's like you just imagine him. He's the easiest voice to have in your head.
And this is not the same thing as this movie. This movie actually had moments of being really funny. It's cast impeccably, right? There are some moments where you're like, why is Danny Glover in this movie? But like, let's roll with it. He's wearing a bolo tie too.
Bolo tie Danny Glover, man.
Bolo tie Danny Glover I'm actually kind of into a little bit.
And I love the thing that
Kate Berlant is always amazing in everything she's in.
Oh, she's fantastic in this. I loved Lakeith Stanfield in this. And Tessa Thompson too.
Right.
There's a lot of this movie that I couldn't, because I was caught up in the hype the first time I watched it. Watching it now, I was able to appreciate stuff like production design kind of things and costuming and lighting and cinematography and stuff that I wasn't able
as an independent movie
before.
It fits all of the artistic molds perfectly. Totally with you on that. But it reminded me of the same things I thought about with Bill Maher, where I'm like, is this movie good? Do we know if this is good? We all agree with it. Absolutely. Like, this telemarketing shit is totally mindless and soulless, right? And like, they deserve to unionize. And there's these like cults, like these, these startups, right? There's all these startups, or like the Google campus. The whole point is to like live inside the cult and your entire being, and you live where you work, right? And yeah, it's like exploitive as shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm getting all of that, but I'm like, am I supposed to like this movie because I agree with the movie? Like with the points it's making? Because like, I don't know. I always hated that shit where it's like the stuff you're supposed to like because it's like the correct opinion to do so.
It's like when it's clapter, you know?
Yes.
Like when someone, I think we're sort of retracting comedically from that too a little bit, the way over the course of the past.
People say that about Jon Stewart, who I also loved, right? And I totally got the criticisms of it, right? That it was like Tina Fey who said the clapter thing where she said it in an interview, and she explained what it meant by saying, like what Jon Stewart has on The Daily Show.
Right.
And I was like, that is such a vivid description
that's the way,
what that is.
I mean, that's almost all late night television now is based in clapter, where you're getting somebody who's like, the audience for the show is clearly somebody who also agrees with the host. So you can get away with not necessarily making the most sharp or incisive joke because you agree with the point of view.
Right.
And there is some moments in Sorry to Bother You that it sounds like that's the thing that you have the biggest problem with. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that some, I think we're like in the same boat.
Is this funny or do I just agree with it?
Right. And some of that, because some of the stuff I do think is funny, but there's also now points where I like rewatching it and I was like, this isn't as strong of
like, so what stuck out for you? I was watching it again this morning, going the other way, being like, hey man, there are some really kind of funny parts to this. And like, maybe I'm just looking for certain things, but then as it went on, I'm like, yeah, those were there, but still, like, what's up with this plot twist? What is going on?
I see, and I still sat here and I would watch the horse part and I was like, this is great. This is what because I think that's the level of absurdity the movie needs to reach in order to go off of being on the nose.
I thought about that. I thought about that part. Like, well, maybe it's supposed to be bad. Like, get it? It's supposed to be bad, so it's good again. And then I was like, if that's the point, then I'm like extra mad. Like, I've already seen that in a movie before.
Here's the part, the one part that stuck out to me this time, and this isn't even, I don't think this is even like I guess it's kind of played in the movie like a joke a little bit, but the interactions between Tessa Thompson's character, what's her name, Detroit? Is the artist's name? So between Tessa Thompson and Stephen Yeun's character, where he's basically like
the union leader who makes a move on her,
right? And he's hitting on her.
Weird how that happens.
But first of all, that whole plot line, I'm like, we don't really need any of that. I guess it's like cool. You get to see. She's like,
always
I have
the
agency.
boy meets girl, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy wins girl back. There's always got to be that part. It's, you know what I mean? It's for like, because you want more people to go see it. You gotta have a nice positive resolution,
right? But he has this line, and I guess, I mean, maybe this is by design because it's supposed to get me to not like the guy. But that's the other thing, too. It's like, all right, from a messaging standpoint. So Stephen Yeun has this line where he's like, he says something, or they have this conversation where it is revealed that he basically is a guy who goes to ununionized workplaces and starts unions and then moves on to the next thing.
Yeah.
He's like a reverse union buster.
Yeah.
And he goes in and he says it with this sort of attitude and this conversation that they have where it's like, this is a negative thing that he's doing, which sort of, it basically contradicts like the whole messaging of the movie, which is like unions are good. We need to have them so that workers can have rights, and that way,
that the people who do the work are the ones actually with the power.
Right.
We just have to let them realize it. They have to do it all at once.
Yeah.
And then they're literally more powerful than everyone.
Yeah. And it's like, this is an added wrinkle to that messaging that I don't think does the movie service. And I don't know why it's in here.
Plus, the Keith Stanfield is the main character, right? Cassius Green.
Cassius Green.
Which I did like that. I didn't notice the metaphor of it until like that party scene. It was one of the party scenes, and like you have the is Cash still green? Cassius Green. I'm like, okay, duly noted. Nice move. While simultaneously being like the blackest name in the movie.
Right.
It's like that. Was it? I think it was Chappelle. I think about this joke at least once a week. I'm attributing it to Chappelle. Like in an interview, he said there is no more, the blackest name he's ever heard is Draymond Green. Or maybe that's one of his Netflix specials. That's the blackest name I've ever heard. Cassius Green is like the most Oakland sounding name.
It's a very,
It's perfect. But
kind of like how Steve Lift is one of the most CEO of startup kind of names.
It's like it's jagged and like cut like his jaw. But like I just remember where was I going with this? It had its moments. Oh, it was he sells out. He totally like becomes a scab,
right?
And then they just like excuse it all at the end.
At the very end, they're just like,
because
hey,
he
it's
pointed
fine.
out like, oh, they're all horses, but like then the horses technically never get any better, and they become the more powerful ones. Like the scene at the very end where they're gonna beat up Army Hammer, gonna beat up Steve Lift. Cool, but like.
I don't know, but it ends very messily. I don't know. I guess the
CEO gets brutally murdered.
Right?
Who doesn't like that?
Right? Yeah.
He literally gets eaten by horse people.
Can't go wrong with that.
Can't go wrong with that part. But like, that's the lesson of all of that. But they just like let this guy be a scab.
Yeah,
and like come back,
and
he's
totally
the hero.
He's the hero. He's still totally cool. He's fine, I guess. It doesn't. Yeah. But friendship beats out anything.
That's right.
That's the real moral of this movie.
So yeah, there's just all of those things, and so that's like my point. Like we agree, it's like we agree, or you're supposed to agree with the politics. Or Boots Reilly, is a guy that's got a lot of clout, and he's very ashamedly or not ashamedly like socialist, right? All of his rap lyrics are about like I was listening to his album on the way here, party music, as in Communist Party, get it?
Yep.
And the song was 5 million ways to kill a CEO. And so I'm getting all of that, but then I'm just like, you're letting this guy like who totally sells out just gets to come back into the fray because he found out some secret. Like what? Because he's a whistleblower,
right?
What is going on?
That's the other thing. There's a lot of stuff that's obvious.
Plus, he becomes the horse.
He's still the horse.
Yeah.
Which is even. I guess that's he's supposed to be leading the charge. Is this new horse guy? The end. Steve Lift. You can't trust a startup. Don't ever trust startups.
Don't ever trust startups.
I worked at a startup
correct.
once. It's a bad idea. Don't ever do it.
Don't
ever do it. There's a lot of stuff I remember reading in the reception about this movie. I
still haven't read any reviews.
The reviews are glowing. 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It has
it's almost universally liked as a movie.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I've noticed the most over reading a lot of Rotten Tomatoes ratings over the years is that once something gets to like over 90%, it either is like an absolutely phenomenal movie, or it's the same thing where it's like, oh, I agree with what this movie's saying.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this movie a good review. It sort of exists in this problem where like I'm
not saying that's not even a good reason,
right,
not to like it. Like that can be totally fine.
Yeah,
Like,
I think I agree, but it's still like I think it's worth noting.
Yeah,
because I think this movie. Again, I watched it again, and I appreciated it even more this time when I watched it. But I also was able to like. I'm not going to pick up on this stuff between Stephen Yeun and Tessa Thompson's characters, and I'm not going to pick on him like basically being villainized for going around trying to help workers, gain power.
right.
But there's something. It's like, why is he saying the line like that? Why is this framed as a bad thing when the whole rest of the movie is designed to say, "Hey, workers deserve empowerment"? It's basically him saying like. She's like, "Oh, this is something you do, huh? You just go around, you start trouble." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh, sometimes trouble's already started," but then they just gloss over. And he's clearly, because he's like, "I'm just horny for Tessa Thompson. I just want to fuck Tessa Thompson the whole time,
Right.
And I'm going to do it in an empty art gallery."
It is weird, and it is weird that like, yeah, that even like Boots Reilly just kind of makes that part of the movie. Like, of all of so clearly the bad guy. Maybe that's part of the insight. I mean, it's like clearly the bad guy is Armie Hammer.
Absolutely.
Of course,
100%.
right? But somehow but it's so clearly the bad guy that it's like there's no judgment on him at all. You're not supposed to like him immediately. Mm-hmm. He fits it to a T. He plays it perfectly. But it's the other dude who is like the more disappointing, like, oh, wow, this guy sucks.
Exactly.
Right. And he's the one guy who like is there to do consciousness raising.
Right. That seems exactly.
Which is the point of a labor activist.
That's something that
and he make him into the womanizer.
Right. And that's something I wouldn't have noticed if I didn't watch this movie twice.
Yeah.
I was perfectly content to watch this movie once, be a little bit like, all right, this is kind of scattered all over the place, and then it comes together into this crazy town, horse cock running around land by the end of it. I'm like, cool, I get it. But now I'm sitting and I'm like, this does exist somewhere in the middle where it's like, technically, I still think there's a lot to like in this movie.
Yeah.
I also can see more of the seams now. I can see like, oh, this isn't a very neat and tidy. This doesn't flow. It's a kind of a choppy movie.
The movie just seemed really sloppy to me.
Well, there's
like,
some of the
it's almost like two movies.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. Like,
happens
and
plenty of times.
There's plenty of times like that. Like I remember thinking like Get Out was like that.
Yes.
Right, which I loved. Amazing. And this movie is kind of like Socialist Get Out. That one's about the real monsters, racism.
Yeah.
And this one is like the real monsters, capitalism.
Right,
and so
exactly.
that was part of it too. I'd already seen Get Out, so I was like, yeah, I saw this movie already.
Yeah.
And that one was better.
Yeah, this one it's
had
still
a better
about
budget, and so even the horror sci-fi parts were like more believable looking. Like when it's the same actors.
It's all about adopting whiteness at the end of the day.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was part of it too. Like for me, it was just like you said, this happens in movies and there's familiar tropes. This has become kind of like a new trope. But it's kind of like, I remember thinking like Birdman was this way. We talked about maybe doing this one before. Like I already saw Birdman. I'm like, Coen brothers already did all this before.
Right.
And so like, why is this? Don't tell me that I'm supposed to like this because it's this year's version of like, get it? You're not supposed to get it. Like I hate, there's way too much shit like that. Like I got it. Like this movie is not as metaphorical as people are trying to make it out to be.
It's really
literally
it's exactly what it's supposed to.
Right.
It's to the point where it's so on the nose that
but then it goes to
literally
the horse turn, and I'm just
in.
like, why this weird like sci-fi dystopian? And then it just kind of goes away, and like society, like people don't like even the part where they make money, like the stock goes through the roof. I'm like, okay, yeah, that is probably what would happen.
That's exactly what would happen.
But
that's the thing. It's like I get that. I buy that. I think it's sort of like, it's funny that because I just watched.
They make it seem like people just went back to their jobs knowing there's these mutated race of horse people.
Yeah.
And just.
I mean, that's what I would probably do.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
That.
Listen,
yeah.
I mean, the Panama Papers happened. We all knew about all that.
True,
And it's
but
like,
they didn't say anything about like we've literally created like mutants exist.
All right. Well, all right. Jeffrey Epstein happened. And we are all like, all right, are we going to try and find Pedophile Island? I guess not.
That is true.
Now that's an island of Dr. Moreau I'd love to go see. It's like,
probably.
all right, the island of Dr. Epstein.
Dr. Moreau has definitely been to Epstein's Island.
Yes, he has. But that's the other thing too, is like, for a movie that is as critically acclaimed as it is, to the point where it has a 93% Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of reviews levy the same criticism as far as it feeling sloppy. Like there's A Dowd from the AV Club said it's a scattershot, intermittently pointed satire whose jokes and insights land with the same infrequency. There's a messy first draft quality to how this film fits set ideas together, and a general sloppiness to the execution.
That's good.
Yeah. And but that's the other thing too. It's like, even as some of the film's comedy fell flat for me, I distantly admired its something to prove chutzpah.
I agree with the point it's trying to make.
Exactly.
Sure.
Because it's a good point.
Yeah, it is a good point. And the fact that it's getting this much, did it win anything?
It won a few of the Indie Awards.
Come award season.
National Board Review gave it one of the top 10 independent films.
Okay.
Best first feature to Boots Reilly and all of the producers at the Independent Spirit Awards. It was nominated for a slew of things. The Audience Award and the Best Actor at Gotham Awards and the Breakthrough Director Award there. Outstanding First Time Feature went to Boots Reilly nomination at the DGA. And he was also nominated for Best Screenplay at the Independent Spirit Awards. And it's
does he attend these? Is he one of these guys that attends this shit, or is he one of these guys that like doesn't go?
I think he does, because I feel like I remember somebody being like, "Oh, Boots is back in town again. He's in the spare room again."
Okay,
but that's who knows?
Because like when Eminem won the Oscar, he didn't go.
Right.
And I always thought that was like interesting when some people don't, or even like Marlon Brando, Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
He didn't go to the Oscars in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right?
He sent,
he won Best Actor and sent a Native American woman talk about, and she like got booed.
Right. I mean,
so, okay.
I think
I see your point. Like, the fact that it was so highly regarded, it is cool that like a movie like that is enjoying like an open courtship.
Right.
Right. Like the way like the public conversations on things like this have shifted enough or shifted back that you can be like, hey, this movie is pro labor union, and people aren't like, buh.
Right, exactly.
Right. So that's cool. Like, the idea that this is a movie that people are saying is deserving of praise. Movies are a reflection of our culture, right? They have political, all movies have a political element to them in some way. So I like all of that. But then like it's the first part. It's like again, because we agreed with the movie, like we're like movies are allowed to like not be good.
Yeah.
Like they're like admitting like it needed some more production value.
Right. They're like, yeah, the script could have been a little bit tighter and made more sense. But that's the other thing is
the
like
budget could, I mean, what was the budget of this movie? That's part of it. I mean, if this is the same movie with like slightly more of a budget, to help suspend the suspend disbelief more.
Right.
Like
you can spend a little bit more money on those horses.
Oh, yeah. Why? I don't get like why horses, like work horses. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Is there like this weird like black people or animals? Like what is happening?
I mean, hey, it's all its interpretation.
Horse cock, like get it? Oh, it's like what?
That was the other thing too.
What is any of that about? Like why this obsession? Like the horses all have like the very first thing you see is the horse cock. Like
it's right there.
Okay.
And Armie Hammer, that's one of his big points is like, listen, you're going to have a huge cock. You're going to have a horse dick.
And that was like an easy joke that went untold, where it's like he's telling this black dude, yeah, but your cock's going to be big. It's like,
right.
I mean, I don't know what Keith Stanfield's cock looks like.
I don't know. I feel like he's packing.
He's been in enough things at this point.
Look, Keith Stanfield, show your dick.
Yeah.
I think this movie had a $3.2 million budget.
Okay.
It made $18.3 million at the box office.
Yeah.
It's well regarded. I think
I paid to see it twice.
Yeah. It's good that this movie exists. Yeah. I still came away from it watching it a second time, still enjoying it, but I really would love to see, now that Boots Reilly has a calling card from a cinematic standpoint.
Yeah. How does he follow it?
Exactly.
Like, because you can't do this again.
No. And I want to see whatever.
Like, I guess, because if it's an independent quality and because of the nature, maybe this is the only, this industry is a nightmare to get secure funding for stuff. So maybe with the ultimate, like the point or the movie itself that he wanted to make, maybe this was the only backers he was going to get.
Exactly.
That was only the money. So maybe that's a part of it. So if he's going to get a bigger budget, like what is he going to do now?
Right. Now that Boots Reilly has made like his to make a swing to like the hyper capitalist version. I think that now that Boots Reilly has done his version of Memento, essentially, something that's small but well regarded.
Yes,
I want to see his version of the Batman trilogy. Not that specifically. I don't want him making a superhero movie.
It'd be kind of great.
But it would be.
But get this, Batman's the bad guy.
Yeah. See, this is why Boots Reilly needs to make more movies.
Yeah, I see that part.
I want to see what he does next. Now, because I love his style. I love his flair. Yeah. I think his messaging this is the time to be making socialist movies and making movies about unions.
Well, and Jordan Peele opened the door for sure. Like that's because that was another part of this where it's like I literally just saw this movie on like a formal level. Yeah, like it's almost this because even us. What is that movie?
The one that just came out?
No, the first one.
Oh, Get Out.
Get Out. Even though Get Out has that two movies feel. And I'm not a horror movie person, and so I can like, okay, well, the reason I don't like that second part is because I just don't like horror movies in general. And it was like, there's a part where like, oh, this is a little too on the nose in some ways, but that movie is still like better. But because he did that first, that's why a movie like Sorry to Bother You gets to come out, right? And there should be more of them. And the fact that Jordan Peele is doing more horror movies, and this has been a thing in film majors have been talking about this for a long time, that racism and horror films are inextricably together, that there's this connection there. So I like all that stuff there. It was just like everyone's taking swings now in that direction, and this movie was like swing and a miss.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think he caught a little something. I think it's like a foul tip.
Oh, okay.
He's still in the batter's box. He's just trying to
having a very long at bat.
He's having a long at bat. He's just trying to get. He's
frustrating the shit out of these pitchers.
Catching a little something, trying to get an on base. He just maybe. Who knows?
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Was definitely like a home run, and this is not that.
Right,
but he's on the same team.
And somebody probably stole a base, caught him on the right time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go.
So because of his at bat, someone who was on base is advancing because he's taking so long to do something.
Yeah. I'm glad we could glad we could work some sports metaphors into this.
Absolutely.
Because you have a sports podcast.
Correct.
And what is that? If people
It's called Not a Fan. It's called Not a Fan, so it's just like my opinions. It's probably right up your alley.
Oh yeah.
I always tell people like, if you're not a fan of me, I have a podcast for you. It's comics who are fans of teams that I am not, like yourself.
Yeah, we did a Cowboys episode, right?
Always. Yep. There's so many Cowboys people everywhere, whether they're from Texas or they're just out here, right? It's the official sports garb of homeless people,
right? It's the official sports. It's America's team, baby.
America's team. So people come on, they're fans of teams that I don't like or don't care for or don't root for, and I go, how dare you? And then we go from there. And it was really fun having you on. It was one of the greats.
Happy to do it.
Absolutely.
I loved it. And especially, I wish if we could ever do another one, because now the Cowboys are in a much shittier position. But we'll see what happens.
It sounds like they're about the same as they always have been.
The problem is
they're supposed to win the Super Bowl every year. This is finally the year, and yet they are 7-7.
Well, now we're in a spot where we can actually probably fire Jason Garrett. So good for that.
Yeah.
Finally.
Long
time coming.
Just get rid of your coach again and just keep the same guy in charge of the decision making the decisions.
Exactly. Listen, Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones is going to be the head
Jerry
coach.
Jones is the problem. Of course not.
No, of course not.
How could he ever be problematic? That's like saying Armie Hammer's not charming. It's never going to happen.
I mean, he's so charming. God, he's so charming.
Let's have Armie Hammer play young Jerry Jones in a movie. I can see that happening.
He wishes.
Yeah. We'll do the reverse. We'll do the reverse of the Irishman technology to age Army Hammer up.
To make him, you just make him literally look like Jerry Jones.
Yeah, it's possible. I believe in it.
A 6'4". Is he like actually tall, Army Hammer? He
Armie
looks
Hammer,
like a guy
yeah.
who's actually tall, not just like movie tall.
Yeah, he's like. I mean, there's a reason they got him to play the Winklevoss twins and
That's right.
Social Network.
Oh man,
because he's like he's like a handsome, jacked man, and that's what they were. They're rowers. Come on.
Oh man, you should have just reprised that. It should have been. It should have been a different startup. It should have been a social media, and that's what his next movie needs to be. Is like something on.
I would love to see
social
that.
media. Yeah,
I would love to see. And it's funny we keep going off on tangents as I try and wrap this podcast up.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was reading a year end. Or a decade end, rather. I forget it's the end of the decade. I was reading a decade end best movies list.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of those.
There's been a lot of those. It's 'tis the season, and it's another one of those things I'm trying to avoid getting caught up in, just because it's a time suck, and I know myself. And
a list you have to create or complain that you're not on.
Right, and so, but there's this movie that speaking of the Social Network showed up on a year-end best of list, and it very much should. I think it's one of the greats of the decade. But there's just the most cogent point where it was like, I remember when Social Network came out, everybody was mad at the way that Mark Zuckerberg was portrayed. But this movie came out in 2010,
right? Which
is like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg is a piece of shit,
right?
Who knew? David Fincher knew.
Turns out everybody at
and Aaron
Harvard
Sorkin knew. Yeah,
that's the best. Turns out Aaron Sorkin of all people,
right?
Figured it out.
Got it, pot calling the kettle black.
Oh boy.
So, not a fan. Available wherever podcasts are.
All of the things.
Just
That's
like
absolutely
this one.
right.
And where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on all the things social media at my handle, Faination, FAINATION. That's also my website where all of my stuff is.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, jlightcomedy.com for show dates. If you like the podcast, you can subscribe on Patreon to get some extra stuff.
Ooh,
you can subscribe.
Patreon.
Yeah, man. Getting some Patreon bonuses coming in now.
That's right.
Come on down. Join, get some sticker pack.
Making it happen.
Get in the Blockbusting Film Club.
That's right. Dude, the stickers are great. You need more stickers on things.
Everybody loves stickers.
That's right.
Who doesn't? And if you like, also tell a friend, subscribe, all that good shit.
Do it.
Joe.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Thank you for having me, man.
Very welcome. This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.